later on. Yes, so as I was saying, I grew up thinking that dairy was the best food even when I was a doctor. But as I understood certain things about dairy, I decided to stop dairy completely. And I started this in 1985. And as I quit dairy, when I started, I didn't do it completely. It took me a few years to stop it completely. And I saw a huge change in the state of mind and body. And it was so amazing that I, as a doctor, started reading all the different things that I could see about dairy. And the very first thing I found out was that the countries with the highest incidence of osteoporosis were the countries with the highest consumption of dairy. And this shocked me because we always know of dairy as something that's good for calcium, and so to prevent osteoporosis, you had to have dairy. But as a doctor, I immediately realized that all the patients that I knew with osteoporosis were people who had had dairy all their lives. So we have been told a lie, and this helped me research even more. Today we have a lot of people with lactose intolerance and other things, and so we really have to think about whether dairy is good for us or not. So before I go ahead, I want to ask you, all of you who are here, what you think about dairy. And so I'm going to run a poll where you can click a little button on the left-hand side. Do you think dairy is good for health? Yes, no, or uncertain. That's why I'm here. You can click any of these. And while you're clicking, the others can see exactly where we are. Many of you are here and you already believe that dairy is not good for health. Some of you, like me, believe that dairy is good for health. I believed that all my life while I was growing up. And some of you are uncertain. Thank you for coming, because we need to find out what is the truth. How did we grow up thinking that we need milk all our lives? Can you tell me, by typing into the chat box, how did you think, because you might have thought this too when you were young, how did you think that milk was good for you, that humans should drink cow's milk? Who told you this? Please type it in. Yeah, nobody said it was bad, and our parents told us. Parents started teaching us to drink even before we could think. And yes, the advertisements as well. So if I look at all your answers, it's our family or our mother or our parents. The dairy industry, which has been brainwashing us, and society. Wherever you go out, you see dairy everywhere. Almost every single meal today has dairy in it. And you know, when it wasn't like that when I was a child in Bombay. When I was a child, milk was hardly available. It was available in ration booths, and you could buy milk only according to, as you know, your rationing of it. And it was stoned milk, which was made from powder milk coming from abroad. India hardly had a dairy industry. Today, India has the largest dairy industry in the world. What a huge change. And you can imagine that, you know, when I was a child and people hardly had refrigeration, dairy was not really that common. And paneer was just a way of rescuing spoiled milk. Today, paneer is an item in every single restaurant, And vegetarians, when they go out to eat, they usually order paneer. Non-vegetarians order chicken, vegetarians order paneer. Milk is everywhere. And when a lie is repeated often enough, it takes in our minds the form of truth. So before we go ahead, I want to ask you a question. What is milk? Milk is a food that every mammal makes only for its young. And this is true for both human beings and cows too. And in nature, no animal drinks another animal's milk. We don't find goats drinking pig's milk or monkeys drinking elephant's milk. We don't even find a calf drinking its mother's milk once it grows up. No grown-up animal drinks milk. We are the only species that continues to drink milk, and that too of a lower animal, all through our lives. And when I say milk, I mean all the dairy in our diet. Milk, cream, butter, cheese, paneer, yogurt, buttermilk, milk sweets, powder milk, whey protein, ice cream, and anywhere else that milk is found. And yes, dogs drink cow's milk and cats drink cow's milk, but they drink it only when humans feed them. Dogs do not go up to the cow's udder and drink its milk. We are the ones who have got a belief that cow's milk is a food, whereas cow's milk is only a food for calves. And we have started feeding our children milk because we have been conned or brainwashed by the dairy industry. Think about it. The whole of Southeast Asia never used milk all these years, except the last 30 years. And that's why there's no milk in Japanese food, Chinese food, Thai food, Malaysian food, Burmese food, any of the Southeast Asian countries' food, traditionally. Now, why is milk so bad for us, if at all it is? Let's just look at the composition of milk. Milk is a cocktail of hormones, growth hormones, because milk is a fluid for a baby calf to grow to full size in just 18 months. So milk contains powerful growth hormones. Human milk also contains growth hormones because a human baby grows the fastest soon after it's born. A human baby doubles its weight in 6 months, triples its weight in 1 year, and therefore growth hormones are very important. But when we consume dairy all our lives, it makes us grow, and grow. And all of Southeast Asia, people used to be slim and slender, but when they moved to countries like US, say the Chinese moved to the US, they grew fatter and fatter because they started consuming milk, which normally contains growth hormones. Milk also contains IGF, or insulin-like growth factor, which looks like insulin and takes the place of insulin on the receptors of the cells and blocks insulin, causes insulin resistance, and is one of the big causes of diabetes. Milk also contains, because it's the fluid of a female mammal, estrogen and progesterone, prolactin, oxytocin, and if you have milk in the West, also RBGH, a recombinant growth hormone. So all these hormones, actually in our body, hormones are orchestrated by the conductor, which is called the pituitary. And the pituitary keeps all the different hormones in balance. But now, when we consume dairy, Our hormones go out of balance, and that's why today we're seeing so many hormonal problems. We're seeing diabetes and hypothyroid and polycystic ovarian. And you know, India had the problem of overpopulation, but today India has a huge problem of infertility. There are infertility clinics everywhere, and this is because of hormonal imbalances. So we are, and plus breast cancer and prostate cancer, which are hormone dependent cancers. Now, one thing I can tell you, all these problems can disappear when we start eating the food which is correct for our species. And that's what we at SHARAN do. We help people learn how to heal themselves by eating food which is suitable for our own species. Milk is a cocktail of hormones and pus. Did you know that milk contains pus? Why pus? Because a cow's udders are meant to be manipulated only by the calf. When we manipulate these udders with milk machines or hands, we inadvertently injure them, which causes inflammation and induration and pus formation. And no matter what we do, there's pus in the milk. In fact, there are guidelines about how much pus is allowed in milk. And do you know that most dairies are not willing to publish how much pus there is in the milk because it's beyond the guidelines. There is just too much. A normal cow's udder should not look so red and inflamed as these look. But if you go around and look at the cows, you will see what the udders look like. You can look at young cows who aren't giving milk, their udders look completely different. And in order to control this inflammation and induration, antibiotics are regularly given in the feed of cows. Now, I know many of you who are here are interested in natural health and you don't want to even take supplements, and yet those who consume dairy are inadvertently taking antibiotics every single day. You know, when a mother is lactating, the doctor tells her not to take medicines because the medicines will come out through the milk. But we are giving antibiotics to cows every day and then consuming the milk. So we are actually consuming antibiotics. Did you know that 80% of the antibiotics produced in the world are fed to animals used for food? 80% of the antibiotics. And so we are consuming antibiotics with every single meal. Now, milk is relatively less concentrated compared to cheese and paneer. 1 ounce of cheese is 16 ounces of milk. 1 ounce of paneer is 12 ounces of milk. And so today we're not just having milk, but we're having concentrated forms of milk. Also, ice cream or milk sweets are concentrated forms of milk. And then cows, you know, sometimes we like to have organic so that we don't consume so many pesticides, which are actually poisons. But when we consume dairy, we are consuming all the pesticides which the cow consumed through the milk. And so when we consume dairy, we are actually consuming more pesticides than when we consume conventional fruits and vegetables. In fact, the ICMR, the Indian Council of Medical Research, did a study on milk in India, 50,000 samples over 7 years. And they found that milk in India on an average contains 570 times the permissible levels of pesticides. I repeat, 570 times. That is a lot. Now, people usually aren't even measuring the amount of pesticides in milk. They're too busy measuring pesticides in grains or in fruits or vegetables. But if they ever measured the pesticides in milk, milk would be off the market completely. And then chemicals and toxins, because no matter where we are in the world, cows are consuming some kinds of chemicals. Now, if it's in India, cows aren't given enough food because there's not even enough food to feed humans. And cows are routinely found grazing in garbage dumps everywhere in India, which means they're consuming plastic and lead batteries and sanitary napkins and medical waste, all kinds of things. And there's a beautiful YouTube called The Plastic Cow, which if you watch, you will find that a living cow can have up to 85 kilos of plastic in its rumen and still be alive. Sometimes, though, this plastic blocks up the digestive tract of the cow, and the cow, even young cows, just drop dead. The makers of this film, The Plastic Cow, also did research on how much PCB is found in milk in India. Can you believe that milk contains PCB? That means the milk contains plastic. And in the West, as well as in India, by the way, in the West and in India, all the slaughterhouse wastes are sent to rendering plants where they are dried up and fed back to animals in our food chain. This means the hooves and the hair and the bones and the intestinal tracts full of plastic if they have. It also means the plastic tags on cows' ears. Everything is ground up and fed back to animals in our food chain. And so no matter where you are in the world, you are eating plastic if you eat animals or their secretions or their eggs, you know. Did you know also that a lot of the fish bycatch, the fish that people don't eat, is dried up and fed to animals in our food chain as a rich source of protein? And one of the huge plastic, the sea is a huge reservoir of plastic these days because all our plastic goes into the sea. And so fish are full of PCBs. And so no matter where you look at it, if you're eating animals or their secretion, you are getting plastic. Now, chemicals and plastic and pesticides are hormone disruptors. And today we have a huge number of hormonal problems. This is something that we really need to look into. And then there's another problem that because of this rendering, cows' byproducts are fed back to cows. And that's how mad cow disease proliferated. Prions, which are even smaller than virus, are the organisms which promote mad cow disease. And mad cow disease takes 10 years to manifest. So once the prions enter the cow, it takes 10 years to manifest mad cow disease. Most cows don't live 10 years, but they still could have prions in them which come back to us in the milk. And then it gives a human form of mad cow disease called Creutzfeldt-Jakob syndrome. Have you heard of that? You probably haven't heard the name, but Creutzfeldt-Jakob syndrome symptoms are exactly the same as Alzheimer's. And today we don't know, but we're seeing a lot of Alzheimer's cases, and we don't even know if they're really Alzheimer's or whether they're Creutzfeldt-Jakob. If you want to learn a lot more about all this, read a beautiful book called Mad Cowboy and another book, No More Bull. Mad Cowboy and No More Bull by Howard Lyman. Howard Lyman was a meat and dairy farmer until he got a severe disease that, most people thought he would be dead, but somehow he survived, and he started looking into what was the cause of that disease. And this caused him to close down his whole meat and dairy farm and become one of the biggest advocates of a plant-based diet. So his books are really worth reading. And casein, which is milk protein, is one of the most powerful carcinogens found today. If you read the China study, you will read about an experiment where rats were given a diet with 20% casein, and all of them developed tumors. Casein promotes tumors. And we are seeing more and more tumors and cancers these days than ever before. Now, milk also usually undergoes two processes: homogenization and pasteurization. Homogenization means breaking down the fat molecule into tiny bits so that it can be easily absorbed by us and makes us fatter and fatter. And so we have a huge obesity epidemic. Pasteurization, on the other side, is heating the milk to a temperature where most of the bacilli and also the enzymes and other nutrients are destroyed. So milk, after pasteurized, has lost a lot of its nutrients, and that's why there are advocates of raw milk, but that causes disease. Now, the problem with pasteurization is that it kills a lot of the bacteria, but it doesn't kill some. It doesn't kill the tubercle bacilli, and that's why countries like UK are having UK, Russia are having tuberculosis epidemics, because cows are kept in close confinement, and then they have tuberculosis, and then their milk is pasteurized. And yes, pasteurization is a process post milking, but before drinking. And so we are subject to pasteurized milk. And today we have a whole lot of people who are lactose intolerant, and a large amount of people who don't know that they're lactose intolerant, because almost everybody cannot digest milk as an adult. We have renin, an enzyme in our stomach, which is used to curdle and digest milk when we're young, when we're kids. But as we grow up, we're hardly able to digest milk. And if you stop consuming milk, you will see how much easier your digestion is. Has anyone experienced this in the audience? Would you please type in if you experienced that when you stop consuming milk, you feel much better? Wonderful, thank you. Now, also animal proteins as well as milk proteins, because milk proteins are animal proteins, trigger autoimmune disorders. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disorder, and studies have already shown that type 1 diabetes occurs more commonly in people who as infants have been fed cow's milk too early instead of their mother's milk. Multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, alateral myotrophic sclerosis, all of these are autoimmune disorders, and we're seeing them more than ever before. I myself suffered from an autoimmune disorder many years ago, and because I was a doctor and I knew about it, I changed my diet and reversed it without any medicines. Now, honestly, there are so many reasons to ditch dairy, but if you have been drinking milk up to now or consuming dairy products, Do you find it easy to live without dairy? Can you imagine a life without dairy? And I'd like answers only from the, well, let me take a poll. I'm going to ask you, how many of you feel that you could ditch dairy? And you can vote here. I've already done it. I'm going to do it. I can't imagine living without some form of dairy. I don't believe all of this. Please vote wherever you are in this. Okay. Thank you for your votes. Thank you for your honest votes. Can everyone see the votes? Okay. So why is milk so difficult to ditch? Even though we know that dairy is one of the causes of a lot of diseases, why is it difficult to ditch? Because it's very addictive. Imagine if you've been consuming dairy and I suggest leaving dairy, how do you feel? But if I were to suggest leaving peas or carrots, how would you feel? You would feel that, okay, instead of carrots, I'll have potatoes, or instead of peas, I'll have beans. It's not that difficult. But dairy is a bit like tea or coffee. Coffee is equally addictive. Smoking is equally addictive. Sugar too. And the food industry uses this to its advantage by adding dairy to all kinds of foods so that unsuspecting people are taking dairy every day. Did you know that all the flavored potato chips usually have dairy in it, milk powder? That's just to make them addictive. Bread. In the past, bread was never made with milk, but now they put a bit of milk powder in it to make it more addictive. Wasabi has milk powder. Coconut milk powder has milk powder. We have milk in everything these days. It's all over the place, which is why if you want to ditch dairy, it's very important to read the labels. Now, when we think about stopping dairy, one of the questions that comes is, don't we need milk for calcium? So I just want to ask you a few questions to get us thinking. First is, where does a cow get the calcium from? If cows can get calcium from greens, can't we? The second is, all the people that have osteoporosis, they usually take calcium tablets and they definitely consume more dairy. Do they ever get well? So we've got this idea we need milk for calcium, but nobody gets well from osteoporosis by having milk. And most of the people who have osteoporosis were having milk all their lives. I want to show you this chart where you can see number 1, human milk contains 33 milligrams per 100 grams of calcium. All green leafy vegetables, nuts and seeds contain more calcium than human milk. Even potato chips, number 22, contains more calcium than human milk, and cow's milk, number 30, definitely contains more calcium than human milk. But human milk contains all the calcium that an infant needs when it's just born and has no teeth and no bones. Can you imagine that we never need more calcium in our lives than what is supplied by human milk? Yet, we are running after calcium tablets. If you're taking calcium tablets, you should not be doing that because it ends up causing kidney stones. But look at number 24, sesame seeds. Sesame seeds contains 10 times more calcium than human milk, than cow's milk, sorry. 10 times more calcium than cow's milk, and nobody's talking about sesame. If you want to make sure you're getting enough calcium, which by the way, no dietary deficiency of calcium is known, that means nobody's getting lack of calcium. But if you want to make sure you're getting plenty of calcium, have sesame seeds, have tahini, you will get all the calcium and more that you need. Now, what about proteins? A lot of vegetarians have milk because they're not eating meat and they think that you need milk for protein. And also, all the bodybuilders tend to prescribe whey protein. So, let us think for a minute, how many of you know somebody with protein deficiency? Protein deficiency does not occur except in starvation. But do you know somebody? So just to go back to proteins, we do not need cow's milk for protein. Proteins are plenty in beans and greens. And honestly, if you're just on a fruit diet, you will get all the proteins you need because there's protein in every single cell of every single food. DNA and RNA, the center of every cell is protein. But stress. How many of us have stress? Stress is everywhere these days. And why do we get so much stress? You know, when we are stressed, we produce adrenaline. When cows are stressed, they produce adrenaline. In order for us to consume dairy, a cow is artificially inseminated when she's just 2 years old. This is a nice word for rape. And then she becomes pregnant. And when she delivers, the baby is taken away from her, tied up if it's a female, and allowed to maybe have milk a couple of times. But if it's a male, it is sent to slaughter. Calf leather, veal, these are products of male calves. And male calves never drink from their mother, not even the colostrum, which is being sold as a delicacy. So just to give you an idea, I would like to show you a short film, a YouTube, and I'm just going to try to play it and let me see if you can see it. This is Benny's life in 30 seconds. It's only 30 seconds long, but very important to see. Yes, it is graphic. It's 30 seconds long, and I do think it's important, so I'm showing it.
If you've opened a magazine in the past 20 years, this is probably...
Okay, I'm just going to try and play it once again and let me see if I can get it. And if not, we go on. Can you see it? Are you able to see this? Okay. Okay, sorry. Now that was the shortest one that I could show, and this is really the reason why I left dairy. I didn't even know all the medical facts, but when I found out that calves are not allowed to be with their mothers, and their mothers find it as painful as a human mother would find if her baby was taken away from her, then I just had to leave dairy. But what I experienced is when I left the dairy, stress disappeared. I was much less stressed than I had ever been before, and I realized that I'd faced stress my entire life. Today, we have a huge problem of climate change. And did you know that the UN and FAO published a report in 2006, a 400-page report called Livestock's Long Shadow, stating that livestock produce more greenhouse gases than all the vehicles on the planet combined. All the planes, trains, cars combined. Can you believe this? It's pretty hard to believe until we realize that we are 7 billion on the planet and we are slaughtering 70 billion land animals for food every year. All these animals need land, water, air, and take up space. And so we are creating the climate change. We are creating the lack of biodiversity today. I want to share this with you in another short and totally non-graphic YouTube, if I can get it going. Can you see this? Okay. Okay, I'm going to try it again and see if you can see it. Okay, now you can see it. Okay, I'm just going to play it again. Oh my God, it's playing again and again. I hope this is the last time. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. So you could see here, those of you who could see it, what a huge impact our consumption makes on climate change. And if we care for our children or our children's children, I don't know if they'll ever be alive, but if we care for our children, we need to be the change today. Now, there's so many milk myths that I have to tackle them one by one. The first myth we've already tackled: milk is nature's best food. We have this in our head because we grew up being forced to drink our milk. But if we start thinking of it, we will understand that milk is nature's best food only for the calf. The next one is Rijuta Divekar and other people say, have ghee with glee, that milk is good for you. Even doctors and dietitians say this. And the reason they say this is because they haven't really studied the subject, but they are living under the same societal myths as the rest of society is. And it's really hard to get over these myths. Ayurveda. Many people ask me, well, why do Ayurveds suggest to have milk or ghee or even curds? And the reason Ayurveda suggested is because of the same reason as Rijuta Devekar. Actually, Ayurveda doesn't use milk as a food. Real Ayurveda, milk is considered a white poison to be used only as a medicine. I attended an Ayurveda conference a few years ago, and most of the Ayurveds were talking about A1 and A2 milk, which we'll soon talk about, and how A2 milk is good for you and A1 milk is not good for you. But there were a few old Ayurveds who stood up and said, milk is not good for any human. Milk is not good unless you're a calf. Cow's milk. Cow's milk is not good unless you're a calf. Now, Jainism. Is there anyone here who's Jain? Any Jains over here? Okay, so if you're Jain, you know that milk in Jainism is considered Vigai and Mahavigai. Adversely affects mind and body. Vigai and Mahavigai is something that adversely affects the mind and body. And that's why Jains don't consume any dairy products during Amul. Imagine that at that time they knew that it affects mind as well as body. But now they've moved it to Amul, and the rest of the time they're consuming a lot of dairy. Somebody said you need ghee for lubrication of joints. And look at these kind of myths that we've been told. All the people who have bad joints that I've seen have been having ghee all their lives. And horses and other animals who have perfectly good joints never had ghee. My joints are perfect and I don't consume ghee. So we have this myth, that we need to have ghee to lubricate our joints. It's totally false. And the last, or not last, but one of the most important ones, Lord Krishna's butter. Krishna ke zamane mein bhi doodh peete the. Is it true? Krishna was a cowherd. He had hundreds or maybe thousands of cows. So why was he stealing butter? If we had thousands of cows, how much butter would we have to steal? The reason Krishna stole butter is because if a cow is feeding its calf, first of all, it only produces milk when it has a calf. And if it's feeding its calf, then there's no milk left for anybody else. So even out of 1,000 cows, a little bit of milk could be salvaged for humans, and therefore Krishna was stealing. Even in today's age, there are some Hare Krishnaites, and I know one, Latika from Roha, who had 50 cows. And she thought milk is very good because Krishna used to have milk. But she could not get more than a liter from 50 cows because once the baby has drunk, there's no milk left for us. And A1 and A2 milk, well, honestly, A1 milk is good for A1 cows and A2 milk is good for A2 cows. A2 cows are Deshi cows. So honestly, either way you look at it, we should not have any milk at all. Not A1, not A2, not organic, nothing. Now, how do you find out whether this is really true? And I just suggest try 1 month of no milk at all and see what it does to your body. Traditional milk consumption was very, very low. All over Southeast Asia, hardly. Even when I was a child, India, hardly. But I did know that at that time, when I became a doctor, osteoporosis was rare in India, but very common in the West, where milk consumption was much higher. Governments are promoting milk these days. And why is that? Now, I'm going to try showing you a video. Actually, I'm not going to show you this video because we are running out of time and I'd like to have time for questions. So I just want to share with you that we are up against the advertising. There's advertisement all over the place telling us that we should have milk with every meal. And what's important is to understand that advertisements cost a lot. And if you look at the advertisements, why are they advertising something? I usually tell my clients that if you want to know what to eat and what not to eat, look at all the advertisements and make a list of everything that's advertised and don't eat that. Because no one in their right mind is going to advertise things we really need. Have you seen advertisements for carrots and cucumbers or oranges and apples? Maybe sales, but not advertisements. Because what we really need is going to sell anyway. Now, what will happen if you stop consuming dairy? Freedom from menstrual problems and menopausal problems, which are actually hormonal problems. Freedom from acne, freedom from digestive problems, constipation, tumors, hormonal issues like diabetes, thyroid, polycystic ovarian, autoimmune diseases. And I saw that someone was asking about vegan cheeses. I just want to say that we at SHARAN teach you how to make amazing alternatives for dairy so that you can live according to your values, get healthy, and there's no dent on your taste buds. And today, all over the world, you can buy these things as well, but it's very simple to make. If you leave dairy, you can have soy milk, rice milk, hemp milk, oat milk, almond milk, hazelnut milk, coconut milk, cashew milk, even pistachio milk, pea milk, and banana milk. But the good news is, honestly, you don't need any milk because we should be weaned. We are grown up. We're not infants anymore. But if you'd like to have some milk, just because you enjoy it, you can have any of these milks that you wish. And all over the world, you can get dairy alternatives. Dairy cheeses, avocado can be used as a butter instead, or non-dairy-free ice creams, everything is available. Now, before we come to the question part, I just like to know from you, has this changed your, has this changed the way you think about milk? And I'm going to let you vote, yes, no, not sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Many of you, it has changed the way you think about milk. And some of you are not sure that's good too, because the only way we can learn more is to be unsure. The minute we're sure that milk is good for us, we stop thinking. When we're unsure, we'll start reading. So we really need to learn more. And those of you who think it hasn't changed the way, many of you may have already known these facts. Thank you for being here anyway. Okay. So I just want you to make informed food choices, and you can learn a lot more by joining us at SHARAN. You can be on our WhatsApp broadcast list by requesting your name to be added. Send your name and city to this number and request that you are added to our broadcast list. And now I'm open for questions. So please, if you have a question, would you type it in? I'd be happy to answer. People tell me that calcium from yogurt can be digested because it's fermented, hence it's easier to digest. What's your response for this? Yes, yogurt is easier to digest than milk. However, yogurt also contains hormones, pus, PCBs, and antibiotics and all the other things that we don't want to consume dairy for. And so it also causes diabetes and hypothyroid and polycystic ovarian and menstrual problems. And therefore, it's not a good source of calcium. Why not have sesame seeds instead? At what ages should children stop drinking milk? Children should stop drinking milk once their mothers stop producing milk. And honestly, they can stop drinking milk once they get teeth, which is at 6 months of age. I had no idea that milk was not a part of various Asian cuisines. Yes, it's worth looking at the recipe books. What would happen if there are some occasional slips, such as eating chocolates? Well, honestly, we've survived all these years without any problem by eating chocolates, so we're not going to die. But here's what happens. I had some patients who were one day stopped consuming dairy because they attended our seminars. And our seminars teach you much more, by the way. So they attended our seminars and they stopped consuming dairy. And one of them wrote back to me and said, I am getting depressed. And I looked through reasons and I found out that when we completely stop, we forget what it was like to be depressed. And then when we start having it, we get those depression again. So stress relief is a huge important factor for stopping to drink milk. What about scurvy? Scurvy is a deficiency of vitamin C, and there is no vitamin C in milk, not a drop. Government should advertise reducing the consumption of dairy. Government is interested in money. It's the dairy industry that is feeding the government, and that's why I highly recommend the book No More Mad Cowboy and No More Bull, because it's from an insider of the dairy industry. Look, I can't see all the questions because while I'm speaking, I can't read, but I'm answering as many as I could. Our parents and grandparents have been having ghee, milk, paneer, and they were healthy. Honestly, I'm not a grandparent, and when I was a kid, there wasn't milk in Bombay. So I don't know how much your parents and grandparents could have been having milk because there wasn't refrigeration when they were younger. However, it's a bit like saying, my grandfather was smoking and he lived up to 100. If he crossed 100 by smoking, that doesn't make cigarettes good. One can't be sure about organic milk. Okay, forget that. We're not even talking about organic milk. We don't want to have any milk because even organic milk has hormones, etc., and causes the same diseases. Okay, I can't scroll, unfortunately, or maybe I can. I'm trying to scroll and see any questions that I've missed. Why is it that two people who have been in the dairy heavy diet respond differently to it? If milk is so bad, why doesn't everybody develop diabetes, psoriasis, polycystic ovarian disease? Shall I tell you something? Everybody is suffering from dairy. Some know it, some don't. Now, the only thing you can do is stop dairy for just a month and see what changes it makes in you. And please write back to me. I'm going to give you my slide with the email address. Please do write back to me if after 1 month of completely stopping dairy, you're not feeling better. Now, there is one condition where you may not feel better, and that is if you are already low in vitamin B12. So very important, don't forget to take vitamin B12 and vitamin D in case you're low in them. But otherwise, everybody should feel better if they stop dairy. Okay, I'm going to scroll down again. Please let me know if I've missed any questions by typing them in again. I know that many of you have been answering other people's questions. I had mentioned the baby should have only human milk. What about babies that are not breastfed due to whatever reason? If the reason is that the mother is not producing enough milk, treat the mother. And I'll tell you something about babies. A lot of babies get colic, but they never should get colic. And if the mother who's breastfeeding the baby stops consuming dairy, baby's colic will go. Mother should not consume dairy, and that's another myth actually, that mothers should be given dairy during pregnancy and lactation. It is not true. Does the cow have dairy during pregnancy and lactation? Okay, Rena's telling me that I've been missing some questions. So I'm just trying to go up and see if I can find the questions that I have been missing. How much nuts should you consume on a daily basis? Not more than 10. God puts nuts in a hard shell for a reason. So not more than 10. Even people have wheat intolerance. So is wheat also bad like milk? Think about it. Every child, when it's first given cow's milk, says no. A vehement no. And that's why mothers put sugar or cocoa or something to push the milk down the throat of the child. Why do children say no? Because instinctually they know it's not for them. In the same way, if we eat only according to instincts, then we would eat, oh my God, then we would eat only fruits and vegetables, because if you go to a farm or an orchard, you would feel like eating fruits and vegetables. If you see green fields of wheat and rice, does your mouth water? No. Wheat and rice are cow food. Wheat and rice grains are bird food. Chicken, for example, is dog food. A dog would see a chicken on the road and go crazy. But when you see a chicken in a village, does your mouth water? No. So we've learned to eat foods, and milk being one of them, we have learned to eat foods which are not suitable to our species at all. This is a learned behavior taught by our society. Every mammal eats only according to its instinct, but we eat everything. What about dairy and pregnancy? I think I answered that. During pregnancy, one must never consume dairy. Child will be double healthy and actually even more intelligent. Because when we replace milk with fruits and vegetables, and let me tell you what you should give your children instead of milk. Green smoothies, look up the recipes on our website, and date nut seed shake. More nutrients than milk, tastier than milk, as filling as milk, and you never need to give milk to your children again. Now, what about organic yogurt without any of the hormones? 1 minute. Every yogurt, every milk has hormones. Hormones is not something that's put into the cow. Hormones is something which every mammal produces. You have hormones in you. I have hormones in me. Cows have hormones in them. And dairy cows always have more hormones. That's also because a cow is artificially inseminated again within 2 months of delivery so that she's pregnant and lactating at the same time. This doubles the hormones in the milk. Organic or not, it's all the same. There are hormones in milk. Of all the alternative milks, which one would you suggest? Honestly, I suggest that you don't need any milk because we're not infants, but you can have any of them. Now, if you would like to have milk, alternate. Take one by one, all of them. See which one you really love. Go on having that. What if a child has not had human milk and only formula milk? Formula milk, by the way, is made from cow's milk. And those children are more likely to have type 1 diabetes. What would happen if there's some, oh, I've done that one. Okay. Okay, so I feel I've kind of answered all the questions that are here, and also we have run out of time. So we're going to end now. But I just want to say that this is just a little bit of, there's so much more to say about food and how to be healthy and how not to get all the diseases we're getting today. So please do join our mailing list. If you'd like to know more, go to www.sharan-india.org. Join our mailing list. Look at the events that we have all over the world, and please join us somewhere to learn more. Also join us for future webinars and make informed food choices. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here with me today. Could I please send you the exact location of the retreat in India? It's in Gokarna. Please go to our website, look under events, and you will understand all about the retreats in India. The recordings will be sent to all of you very soon. Tomorrow is a holiday, and so is Monday over here, but I'll try to send it as soon as I can. If not earlier, it'll be sent to you by Tuesday. You're going to receive the slides by email, and you're going to receive the recording by email. And I thank you all for being here. Thank you so much for coming. Recordings will reach you in a couple of days. Thank you all for your kind comments, and thank you all for coming. I'm so grateful to all of you. Remember, share, share, share. Okay, goodbye.